9. Law and evolution. How we define law depends greatly on what we believe. The definition of law, therefore, varies from religion to religion, culture to culture, and from philosophy to philosophy. Those who hold to the Christian faith see law as an ultimate order of the universe. It is the invariable factor in a variable world, the unchanging order in a changing universe. Law for the Christian is thus absolute, final, and an aspect of God's creation and a manifestation of His nature. In terms of this, the Christian can hold that right is right and wrong is wrong, that good and evil are unchanging moral categories rather than relative terms. From an evolutionary perspective, however, we have a very different concept of law. The universe is evolving, and the one constant factor is change. It is impossible, therefore, to speak of any absolute law. The universe has evolved by means of chance variations, and no law has any ultimacy or absolute truth. As a result, when we talk about law, we're talking about social customs or mores, and about statistical averages. Social customs change, and what was law to the ancient Gauls is not law to the modern Frenchmen. We can expect men's ideas of law to change as their societies change and evolve. Moreover, statistics give us an average and a mean which determine normality, and our ideas of law are governed by what is customary and socially accepted. For example, Emile Durkheim in The Rules of Sociological Method had a chapter, quote, on the normality of crime, end quote. First of all, Durkheim saw crime as normal, quote, because a society exempt from it is utterly impossible, end quote. Every society in every age has its criminals, therefore crime is a part of normality. Second, since Durkheim believed in evolution rather than God, there was for him no law of God declaring crimes to be evil. The only thing against crime is social disapproval and condemnation, and this rests on the organization of society. If society were differently organized, these crimes might be regarded as desirable traits. Third, crime makes for progress because it challenges authority, and, according to Durkheim, quote, to make progress, individual originality must be able to express itself, end quote. The criminal thus breaks up the fixity of society from below so that the idealist above can find expression and freedom. The criminal is thus the ally of the social revolutionist. Fourth, the criminal himself is a pioneer of evolution. As Durkheim said, quote, where crime exists, collective sentiments are sufficiently flexible to take on a new form, and crime sometimes helps to determine the form they will take. How many times, indeed, it is only an anticipation of future morality, a step toward what will be. End quote. Instead of being a parasite and an unsocial being, the criminal is thus, for Durkheim, an evolutionary pioneer. Quote, crime, for its part, must no longer be conceived as an evil that cannot be too much suppressed. End quote. Crime, then, must be given serious sociological attention. Quote, if crime is not pathological at all, the object of punishment cannot be to cure it, and its true function must be sought elsewhere. End quote. Fifth, Durkheim stated, quote, the various principles we have established up to the present are, then, closely interconnected. In order that sociology may be a true science of things, the generality of phenomena must be taken as a criterion of their normality. End quote. In other words, any criminal activity, as it becomes prevalent, becomes normal and acceptable. Instead of talking then about a breakdown of law and order, the evolutionist must logically talk about changing the law because the current crimes and perversions are becoming the new law of society. Those who hold to the old immorality are now the social deviates. A mother, herself a biologist, complained to me a few years ago that her son, finding the lawless nature of his classmates uncongenial, had withdrawn from his studies. The teacher's comment to the mother was that her boy was the, quote, deviate, end quote. In terms of Durkheim's statistical standard, the teacher was right. In terms of this evolutionary standard, all who oppose departures from law, all who hold to an undeviating good and evil, are dubbed extremists and social deviates. In terms of social evolution, man finds himself perpetually in the social self. Man must always be in tune with the social scene. He must be with it to be himself. Thus, Charles H. Cooley, in writing on, quote, the social self, end quote, said that the individual, the I, is a militant social tendency working to hold and enlarge its place in a general current of tendencies. So far as it can, it waxes, as all life does. To think of it as apart from society is a palpable absurdity of which no one could be guilty who really saw it as a fact of life. End quote. Cooley then quoted Goethe, quote, only in man does man know himself. Life alone teaches each one what he is. End quote. In other words, man is a product of social evolution. Therefore, he cannot be defined in terms of God. He can be defined only in terms of the social scene. He is nothing in himself. Man is only an aspect and part of society. To think of man as anything apart from society could be called, quote, a palpable absurdity, end quote. Man, then, is simply a social animal, and he can only be known and defined in terms of his pack, society. In terms of this, man, instead of being created in the image of God, is created in the image of society. Man, instead of being governed by the law of God, is then accordingly governed by the law of the pack, the law of society and evolution. There is then no higher law. There is only the law of society as it evolves. What is right today may be wrong tomorrow. What is perversion today may be noble, quote, platonic, end quote, love tomorrow. Law has no ultimate truth to it, no absolute morality undergirding it. It is simply social custom and the force of the state. For biblical faith, man is not a creature of social evolution, but the creature of God, created in his image, with knowledge, righteousness, and holiness, and with dominion. Genesis 1:27 and 28, Colossians 3:14, Ephesians 4:24. Man is to be understood, therefore, not by reference to society, but by reference to God. The law of man's being is derived not from society, but from God, his maker. God's law is the condition of man's life and its ground for health. As Moses said, quote, the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes that he might preserve us alive. Deuteronomy 6:24. Again, quote, justice and only justice you shall pursue, that you may live. Deuteronomy 16:20, New American Standard. Instead of being judged socially, men and societies must be judged religiously by the sovereign and triune God. But for Auguste Comte, in his study, The Positive Philosophy, quote, social phenomena are subject to natural laws, end quote. That is, society is a product of biology and cannot transcend it. Man is not more than his biology. If man is no more than biology, then man's law is no more than a phase of his social evolution and will change as man changes. There is thus no absolute right and wrong in any evolutionary system of law, so that evolution is in essence hostile to the very idea of law. Law implies an unchanging order, a final standard, whereas evolution insists that law is social experience, custom and mores. As a result, evolutionary thinking is unable to formulate a concept of law. It uses law as an instrument of social change. Evolutionary thinking makes law relative and changing, but the mechanism of change is thereby made absolute. Now, the mechanism of evolution has been natural process, but it has become increasingly the scientific socialist state and its elite planners. When man is made controller of his own evolution by means of the state is made into the new absolute. Hegel, in accepting social evolution, made the state the new god of being. The followers of Hegel in absolutizing the state are Marxists, Fabian and other socialists, pragmatists, and virtually all modern schools of thought. In brief, God and his transcendental law are dropped in favour of a new god, the state. Evolution thus leads not only to revolution but to totalitarianism. Social evolutionary theory, as it came to focus in Hegel, made the state the new god of being. Biological evolutionary thinking, as it has developed since Darwin, has made revolution the great instrument of this new god and the means to establishment of this new god, the scientific socialist state. The world, therefore, is committed to revolution because it is committed to evolution. The world is dedicated to change without meaning because it is governed by law without God. Crisis succeeds crisis because revolutionary change is man's new idea of health, and in every change, the state emerges more powerful and more clearly as man's new God and Saviour. There can be no withstanding this new God, except by means of the only true God. Except the Lord build a house, they labour in vain that build it. Psalm 127, 1.